Good afternoon. We are really excited to be here today to announce a partnership, one that's very important, and it's between the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and the Atlanta Police Department, and it is related to SAKI. SAKI is an acronym. It's SAKI. It's the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative. To me, it's one of the most important things that my office has done and will do during my tenure. We have detectives joining us from the Atlanta Police Department that are going to exclusively work on this body of work, and for that, I could not be more excited. I want to give credit where credit is due. We are only able to do SAKI because of the federal government. This work is made possible because the federal government has given us $2.5 million in grant money, and that's what makes the partnership possible. Now, that money doesn't really much go into the budget of the DA or to the Atlanta Police Department. It does what it really needs to do, or at least a large majority of it does what it needs to do, which is to test rape kits. And that is something that is a wrong we're really historically correcting, is the testing of this rape kits. Previous kits and previous tests and money from the federal government has allowed us to test kits from Grady Hospital. The work is critical to making sure, the money is critical to making sure that we can do the work. Not only does it allow us to partner with APD, but it allows us to test and some of the remaining kits that came from that Grady backlog. It's allowing us to begin with even more testing. In the past, we have begun testing on 4,340 sexual assault kits, and these sexual assault kits are from the 1980s and the 1990s in partnership with the GBI. 3,588 of those were in the Atlanta jurisdiction. We are anticipating that will mean even more DNA hits, so we'll be able to get to more perpetrators. Each of those 4,340 kits represents a victim, and that doesn't need to get lost. 4,342 victims, women, children, men who had their very worst day of their life, and they didn't get justice for it. And so that is how important this project is. Several hundreds of those kits have already been identified as having sperm in them. There have already been CODIS hits from this, and we've already been able to do great work. Every victim we are able to help with this grant and with this partnership is a victim that's really waited too long for justice. And I want to stop here just to give an anecdotal story. Last week, my team, through this funding, was able to go and interview a victim. And even from the call, she immediately knew what they were calling about. And so when they went to interview her, of course, it was a very emotional time for her to have to go relive this horrible day. But what she told them is another crime. What she told them is no one had called her for 37 years. And so for 37 years, she's been waiting for justice. And just the fact that law enforcement, the Atlanta Police Department, and the Fulton County District Attorney's Office had an interest in her and in her case already was bringing her some sense of relief. And so that's why we continue to do this work. I'm going to stop here and tell you another anecdote, one that is a success. Last year, the office tried a case of a young lady who came to live out her dream and to attend Spelman University. And in her very early time at Spelman, she was raped. And based on that trauma, she left, and she never was able to finish at what had been her dream school since a child. And after the trial and the conviction, she told us that for this entire time, it's been feeling like she was the one in prison, and finally she was free. And so we should never just focus on a number of, 4,000 rape kits. No, those are 4,000 horrible days, horrible nights, horrible victimizations. And so this work is very important. What we know as we do this work, and I hope that this does not get lost, is as we test these rape kits, time after time after time, we find serial rapists who have victimized not one but multiple victims. And we also find lives of crime, meaning not only do they commit these horrible sexual assault cases, but they also commit other cases. And think, if those rape kits had been looked at all those years ago, we could have avoided other sexual assaults and we could have avoided other crimes in our community. But we are here to celebrate this partnership. We're here to celebrate this work. It's work that I intend to do every day while I'm here. And you've heard me say it before in the area of gangs. But I am so grateful to Chief Shearbaum, because when we called him with this idea of, can you kind of give us 2 of your detectives and kind of have them work full-time with us on this, he recognized how important this was for our community, how much could be done, and he graciously, quickly agreed to give us that manpower. And so I want to turn the floor over to him so he can address you. And then I think it's important that you hear from the deputy of the Saki unit, Ms. Juliana Peterson.
Thank you, Madam DA. Good afternoon, everyone. Always want to thank you for being here. Please be safe as you travel about our city today. As you know, we've had a lot of rain. And I want to acknowledge the first responders as we stand here that are actively about rescuing individuals that are on flooded vehicles, getting them safely out of neighborhoods for the Atlanta Fire Rescue and Police Department as we're nice and dry in this building that is occurring. Madam District Attorney, we have been strong partners in fighting the gangs, guns, and drugs of this city and county. And I hope as citizens see that partnership and commitment, they know that we never lose sight of others that have been victims in this county and in a city that may not be aligned with gangs, guns, and drugs. And this initiative that you have brought forth for a partnership between the District Attorney and the Police Department of Atlanta to be about seeking and finding justice for those. We know that justice delayed is justice denied, and that will not be the moniker of this partnership that we have. The Atlanta Police Department has been committed from the very beginning to addressing the backlog of untested sexual assault kits that exist. Already in the last few weeks, APD detectives who have been assigned to this task force have been investigating and interviewing a number of previously unsolved cases. With the addition of these 2 detectives, I want to thank you all for your commitment of never losing sight of the least of us that have been fallen victims of these heinous crimes for their work. With the addition of these 2 detectives, the Fulton County Saki investigative team has doubled, ensuring that cases can be more quickly investigated, that victims can be identified, and justice can be brought for them. As we anticipate even more DNA CODIS hits very soon, this partnership between the District Attorney's Office and APD is vital to ensure each case is investigated, justice is ensured for victims, and our community is safer. As already been noted, many of these perpetrators are likely to offend again. And it's important not only to bring justice for those that have been victimized, but to stop individuals before they can harm again in this community or elsewhere in our country. Previously, Detective William Smith has already worked with the Fulton County Saki to investigate and arrest the serial rapist of Wesley Cooley, who raped victims across multiple jurisdictions. And so it is that example of we know the work that will be done here, justice that will be brought, and individuals that deserve to be behind bars for the safety of the community will occur. So, Madam DA, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your vision to keep all individuals of Fulton County and Atlanta safe, and we look forward for the next few weeks of seeing the outcome of your leadership in this area. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We are deeply grateful for this partnership. I want to discuss briefly just some very specific numbers that we're looking at. Madam DA already mentioned that the new kits that we are going to be able to test at the GBI, it's 4,442 kits that we have already begun in the last month to test the initial first 300. And of those, 3,558 belong to the Atlanta Police Department, which right there explains why it's so incredibly important that we be able to partner with APD to be able to investigate these cases. I will mention that of those particular kits, we already know that in initial screenings, at least 954 of those kits have sperm, which means that we would expect, unless something is degraded, that we will get a substantial number of DNA profiles created as a result of testing these kits. Currently, as we are completing our investigations on the backlog from Grady Hospital that was first discovered in 2015 and 2016, we have 78 active known investigations, active known offenders that we are currently investigating, that the Atlanta Police Department is already helping us to tackle. Additionally, we have 15 forensic matches, which means that's an additional 15 cases where we have a suspect that has multiple cases that they've been connected to, but we don't yet have a name. Having APD join us means that we're going to be able to tackle those cases, which take a substantial amount of time, and we will be able to start investigating those. Several of those already involve, that we know, serial rapists. We have been able to close a number of cases. We've been able to bring justice to a number of victims. But because of the incredible work of APD and Fulton Psaki together, we look forward to bringing even more justice.
And with that, we'll take a few questions if anyone has any, and then we will get back to this work.
What caused the backlog to get so high, 4,000 in the first place? And do you have a time frame of when do you expect to, there's a lot of cases and a lot of victims waiting for justice?
That's one of the things we discuss. It's going to take a long time. We may never get to all of them, but what is exciting is that we are whittling them down. Right now, already 300 have been sent. In terms of what happened, I think it's just a historical tragedy that these victims were discounted and things weren't done. And we're talking about these cases go back to the 80s and the 90s. Some would say, well, why is that important to investigate now? Well, one reason is some of these perpetrators live among us and have not stopped their lives of crime. But two is they ought to answer for what they did to too many women in our community.
Is there any danger that statutes of limitations could be run out?
No, because they were never discovered. And so it wasn't crimes that were known about and we just didn't do anything about. So no.
Was this a lack of manpower in the past for, having this many cases in a backlog? It was just, they weren't gotten to, or wasn't staffed to get to them, or wasn't a priority? What can you tell me?
What we can tell you is that the kits were not with the Atlanta Police Department or with any law enforcement agency. The kits were at Grady Hospital, and so they were left there until this massive discovery in 15, which gets the ball rolling. One thing I will point out, which is horrible to think about, this is not a Georgia problem. This problem is across the nation, and the federal government has given funding to a lot of major cities. One of the reasons I'm so proud is because we have to write grants to argue that Atlanta deserves to have this grant money that is so precious, and we've been successful in doing that. And because our program has been so successful, I'm going to brag on my deputy DA. She's been highlighted in national meetings of all the success that we're having, and so we're able to continue to get these grants to fight for people that were in our community and victimized.
We've heard about grants or programs being announced to address this backlog for years now. What makes this one different? What makes you think that this time it'll be successful to really get this going?
I think that we have been successful in that we are turning it over, but it's a slow, long process, which is what your colleague was asking, that there are only so many at such a time. I mean, I wish I could wave a wand and there would be enough money so that we could do all of these kits. The reality is the GBI doesn't have enough scientists to do these kits, so we have to go to private labs to do it. That cost funding to do it, and that's just the first step, right? After that happens, sometimes you automatically get a suspect, meaning a named person. Other times you get what Ms. Peterson has described to you, these 15 kits where they're connected to all these other crimes, and we don't know who they are. And that's where the Atlanta Police Department and our investigators are going to come in and do that legwork to find these people. I'll tell you, I'm very clear about it. These are some of the most awful people, the scariest people that live among us, because when you look at them, it's not one isolated incident. There's multiple sexual assaults, multiple other crimes that are committed, and I often fret over the fact that if we had caught them earlier, how many victims would we have not had to have?
So how comforting you can make arrests and actually get justice for these victims when, like you said, the cases are 20, 30, 40 years old?
Well, we've already been successful. We've won trials, we've won pleas already. I'm very confident with the work that we can get pleas and convictions. But I'll tell you, one of the tragedies is sometimes we figure out exactly who it is, and because it's delayed, the perpetrator is deceased. We've run into cases where we get it and we know exactly who it is, and the victim is deceased. So I'm not going to tell you that there are not those kind of incidences where that crime went unsolved because too much time has gone by and there's no one to prosecute anymore because they're no longer living. But what about all the ones where they are living? They have continued to do crimes. That's what's so important to me about that case. I just talked about it, Spellman. He went on to sexually assault 4 other people. And if we had just stopped him that one time, what was happening to her was horrible, what happened to other victims was also horrible.
And how much of the backlog will this take care of?
We're gonna go little by little, so it's going to, we'll need another grant at the end of next year, but for all of this year, we'll continue to look at them, and then we'll need more grant money to do more. And most of the grant money literally goes to just the science to get the information. It also, though, it does finance things like if Ms. Peterson has to often fly to other communities because the victim no longer resides here, and so the grant will pay for them to go and do that investigation. They spend a lot of time going to other communities because victims no longer live here, or working with other police departments.
Chief, how did you pick the 2 investigators to come over to the DA's office, and are you planning to include more investigators in the future, or different investigators in the future to join them?
We are very fortunate in the Atlanta Police Department. We have some of the best in the business. And the investigators we are selecting have experience in this area. And for an initiative this important, we put individuals that have backgrounds in investigating these type of cases, making sure we prepare for the district attorney proper cases that can be successfully prosecuted in the courtroom. So it is their experience, it's their dedication that we've already seen to the citizens of the Atlanta that we think that we're putting our best on this initiative.
I just thank each of you for taking the time to report on what I think is one of the most important issues. We thank you for being here, and we're going to let this team get back to work.